Hello and welcome to an introduction to useful and usable data analysis tools. These tools were developed by a group, EDAUUR in short, of around 30 organizations, NGOs, UN agencies, clusters, areas of responsibility, and initiatives, under the Grand Bargain workstream on needs assessment. EDAUUR Group considered why a large part of data collected in the humanitarian sector are not then used for informing humanitarian response. One of the identified reasons had to do with the fact that when data collection exercises and analysis are done in isolation, data collected are often not the data needed by decision makers or are not collected in a usable format. The group looked at how we could ensure that data and analysis are useful and usable for response. Since their finalization, EDAUUR tools have already been used by organizations and groups, including the IM Working Group and Global Cluster Coordinators Group, Protection Information Management PIM, the 2019 HNO Practical Guide. Global clusters, AORs, DTM-IOM, and other partners adapted the tools and applied the concepts to guide their field interaction and developed the DTM and Partners Toolkit. The EDAUUR group verified that, when comparing needs assessment processes, it is evident that most steps are common amongst organizations and clusters that participated in this comparison. Sometimes the order of implementation may vary among processes, and often organizations and clusters have different denomination for the same step. In a few cases, common steps may not be implemented by one specific organization. This is mostly due to their specific mandate. For example, some do not do primary data collection. Others collect data as a service for other responders and do not do analysis. Some organizations include additional steps, for example, capacity strengthening with local actors or needs assessments as part of their process. Others look specifically at various modalities for dissemination to ensure that they reach decision makers, for example, presenting results to sectoral or intersectoral meetings, elevator pitches, in addition to preparing reports, infographics, and website content. Overall, however, the main steps of the needs assessment process are common to all of us. The EDAUUR group realized that if we want useful and usable data and analysis, we need to start working together, not just amongst organizations, but amongst four main skill sets. These skill sets are decision makers, those that will at the end use the data and analysis to make decisions on how to respond. Information management and data experts, those who bring the expertise on data management, methodologies, and implement data collection exercises. Subject matter experts, experts on the topic at hand, for example, protection, WASH, food security, shelter, cash as a modality of aid provision. They understand what data mean for their sector of response and make sense of them. Cultural context experts, those who know the culture of the country or area of response and are able to make sense of the information in that specific context. The absence of any skill set hinders evidence-based decision-making and response. For example, discounting IM experts results in lack of evidence. Discounting subject matter experts prevents making sense of information for the specific sector, lack of sectoral understanding. Discounting cultural context experts prevents making sense of information in the specific context, lack of cultural understanding. Excluding decision makers results in lack of appropriate action, as information will be disconnected from what they need. When we talk about decision makers, we refer to decision makers at strategic, programmatic, and operational level. For example, authorities, humanitarian coordinators, cluster and intercluster coordinators, heads of organizations, program officers, delegates, donors. When we talk about IM and data experts, we refer, for example, to needs assessment experts, information management experts, analysts, data management experts, spatial analysis experts, and so on. When we talk about subject matter experts, we refer, for example, to cluster coordinators, cluster members, both national and international, authorities in their sectoral expertise, delegates, experts on various topics like GBV, WASH, protection, shelter, food security, health, and so on. When we talk about context cultural experts, we refer, for example, to local authorities, local staff with contextual knowledge, local organizations, local academia and researchers, anthropologists, and even international researchers with specific context expertise. Close cooperation among the 4 skill sets is crucial at all steps of the needs assessment process. The group identified 4 key steps of the process where it is particularly important that the 4 skill sets work together according to their role. The first step is that when we define specific information needs. The second is the methodology design. The third, tools and data analysis plan design. And the fourth is analysis. And analysis is to be considered one composite step. Let's now look at the roles at each of these 4 steps. Step 1 is identifying information needs. Identifying information needs before developing questions is essential to get the needed results for response. Doing so ensures that questions are more targeted and obtain the right data. Not doing so is likely to result in data collected but not used, and data needed but not collected. The lead role here belongs to decision makers. Decision makers clearly identify the decisions they must take and, with support by subject matter and cultural experts, also identify the information they need to take such decisions. Subject matter, IM, and cultural experts identify what information is available and accessible and where gaps are. IM data experts should always be present at the discussions, as their role at this step is to listen and understand the information needs. Guiding questions can help decision makers and others in identifying information needs. The main questions are: what is it that we have to do? What are the decisions we need to make? What information do we need in order to make that decision? Is that information already available or accessible? This is leading to a review of secondary data. What are the missing data that we should collect? Only after we identify information needs can we develop questions and data collection tools. IM experts contribute their technical know-how on data analysis, questionnaire development, and data collection methods. They translate information needs of decision makers, as well as sectoral and cultural perspectives, into questions that can be analyzed to inform decision making. Subject matter experts identify the building blocks of each information need and help IM data experts phrase the right questions to obtain information useful for their sectoral analysis. Cultural context experts help turn abstract information needs into specific local meaning. They identify the most appropriate way of translating information needs into questions that will be correctly understood in that specific context. Translation means both checking if the sentences make sense in the language used in that country, as well as how concepts are understood in the context. Each skill set has specific roles and responsibilities, also when identifying the appropriate methodology. IM needs assessment experts are responsible to facilitate the process towards the identification of an appropriate and sound methodology for the specific context and purpose. The choice will be based on type of needed information, the needed unit of analysis, the time frame, access, and available resources. IAM needs assessment experts also help others understand how and why different data collection methods and units of analysis impact results. Subject matter experts are fully involved in the process to define the methodology, as their expertise is needed to identify appropriate unit of measurement and analysis, method of data collection, typology of respondents, resolution of data, and affected groups to focus on. Cultural or context experts provide insight on information that lead to the choice of the methodology. For example, on most appropriate respondents, affected groups, geographic boundaries, for example, groups living across admin boundaries, control of territory, etc., accessing gatekeepers, respondents' likely reaction to a type of interview. Decision makers' involvement in deciding on methodology greatly increases their understanding of meaning and reliability of final results, their level of trust in the results, and likelihood they will use results. A number of guiding questions are used by IAM and needs assessment experts to lead the identification of the appropriate methodology. They will answer these questions together with the other skill sets. These questions are available in the Pocket Guide. Step 3 is the design of assessment tools, for example, questions and data analysis plan. The purpose of developing and sharing a data analysis plan is to visualize the final descriptive analysis and verify whether it provides the information that decision makers originally identified as needed. Again, each skill set has a role when designing questions and data analysis plan. IAM experts develop draft questions with support of sectoral and cultural experts in coordination with decision makers to ensure the link between needs assessment objectives and draft questions is clear and correct. IAM experts then visualize potential results using fake data. Decision makers, cultural and context and subject matter experts will use the mock-up to verify that the type of information they will receive can provide the information they're looking for. It is not, if this is not the case, the phrasing of the questions and reply options has to change. Information management experts make necessary changes to the questions, finalize and share the data analysis plan with all the other skill sets. Guiding questions on how to develop a data analysis plan are also available in the Pocket Guide. As analysis is done at various levels, those levels should be clear to all actors. In each level of analysis, different actors and skill sets answer different questions. Each level relies on the preceding ones. The first level is the descriptive analysis. Describing data means to summarize and reduce large amounts of data to a representation where it's easier to compare between them and identify the main points, important stories, and relevant messages. For example, percentages, average, maps and charts are often results of such analysis. The explanatory analysis looks for associations, correlations, and more generally for connections between observations and measurements. It allows for formulation of better hypotheses or theories based on careful investigation of relationships, underlying processes, or causal mechanisms. Interpretive analysis, interpretation, aims at moving beyond findings to identify key messages and drawing well-supported conclusions through careful argumentation, evaluation of the strength of evidence available, and attention to plausibility in context. Anticipatory analysis identifies the likelihood of future events and outcomes at a specific time based on current and historical data. It combines predictions and forecast. Prescriptive analysis entails both response analysis and planning. This process is generally conducted in a workshop setting and uses results for both secondary and primary data collection. Response planning, decisions on response, is the final step, informed by results of all previous levels of analysis. The colored vertical bars on the image illustrate the involvement of each skill set at each level of analysis. A continued line indicates a lead role, while a dotted line indicates a support role. IM data experts have a lead role during exploratory and descriptive analysis, while subject matter experts and cultural context experts have a lead role in explaining and interpreting information and anticipate possible developments. They also develop options for response. Decision makers are then responsible for deciding on the actual response, after affected communities are consulted, as the response will impact their lives. And finally, let us summarize the main concepts you should remember. Remember that if we want evidence-based decision-making, we cannot continue working in silos. We need to start working together. Decision makers, information management data experts, subject matter experts, cultural and context experts, along the main steps of the shared needs assessment process, according to clearly defined roles and responsibilities, and fully appreciating and respecting the different but equally needed expertise we each bring to the table. The absence of any one of the skill sets will impede evidence-based decision-making and response. Remember that each skill set has a role to play at the various steps of any needs assessment process. This chart summarizes them, and detailed guiding questions and roles are in the EDAUUR Tools Pocket Guide online. Thank you for listening.